It's only 6 a.m., but Dad already woke me up.
Hurry up, LaDonna. A huge storm's coming. Poor households await the city's plan for food and shelter.
Oh, then what's the mayor's plan for my food? But Dad didn't listen and just drove away without letting me have breakfast. Well, I'm used to this anyway. A little backstory. We came from a long line of politicians. My grandpa, my uncles, all worked for the government. My dad actually broke with tradition and became a successful businessman. But I guess the apple really can't fall far from the tree. Last year, he took a sudden U-turn and moved back to his hometown to pursue a political career. And he was elected mayor. Since then, he had no time left for me. Not to mention the judgy eyes I had to face at school. You look fine. It's not you. It's your dad's new policy they're whispering about.
Don't mind them, LaDonna. What do us kids know about politics anyway?
There they are, Kira and Troy, my only friends here. In fact, Troy's even in a similar situation. His mom is the chief of police, but he deals with it pretty well. Have you been to the White House?
Does the key to the city really open anything? Can you tell your dad to ban homework?
Seriously, how could Troy stay calm before these stupid questions? And even the teachers wouldn't leave me alone. They always put me in charge of things. Please, just because my dad has great leadership doesn't mean I do too, as if I wasn't already swamped with chores. Once the last bell rang, I rushed to the grocery store. Since Dad's always busy now, poor old me had to take up housework, and it's frozen meals all day, every day. But today he'd come home early for dinner, so I'm gonna throw a feast. Except, none of these tasted edible. What's the problem? I followed the recipes very carefully.
Did I come home at the wrong time?
No, Dad, a perfect timing. My apple pie's ready.
You mean that smoking thing in the oven?
Oh no! My only ray of hope has also turned to ashes! I immediately ran to the convenience store, grabbed all of the instant foods, and dashed home. But Dad's already fallen asleep. He must be exhausted. It's always been him who raised me, as Mom passed away giving birth to me. Now on top of that, he had to take care of this whole town. He needed a partner to share his burden, and I needed to be taken care of as well. Let's see, getting to know someone new with Dad's hectic schedule would be impossible. So maybe reconnect him with one of his exes? From my aunt, I learned he had 2 ex-girlfriends. One is Jade, his old classmate who's still single. 2 is Alva. No other information. Let's start with Jade then. Next day, I immediately told Troy and Kira about my master plan. That's my Aunt Jade. No way! It's fated! Suddenly, a group rushed towards us, babbling about my uncle being appointed temporary Secretary of State. Jeez, chill guys! They kept flocking around, making me feel suffocated. Panicked, I ran away, and as I turned the corner, a hand pulled me back.
Calm down. You're safe from that crazy crowd now.
Thanks, but why did you help me?
I've been in your position. I know what you're going through.
Just like that, I found myself comfortably venting everything to her.
It must be hard for your family of 2.
That's why I'm finding him a wife.
Oh, good luck to you then, sweetie. I have to go now.
What a lovely lady. If only everyone could be like her. With Kira's help, setting up a date for Dad and Jade was a piece of cake. We both dragged them to the same restaurant, then cued some cliché matchmaking moments. Me and Kira quickly excused ourselves and monitored things from afar. They seemed to have a good time, but as we leaned closer... Huh? Inflation? Food security? Obesity epidemic? They'd been chatting about politics this whole time? Dad! That's exactly why you're single! On the way home, I constantly mentioned Jade, but Dad was nonchalant and switched the subject to his meeting instead. Ugh, another one in 30 minutes. I'll have to stay home alone tonight. As he dropped me off, he added,
"Find yourself a boyfriend first before trying to set me up."
How annoying! I then called Kira to inform her that our matchmaking plan had failed, but it took her a while to accept it.
You give up too soon. Is it 'cause you don't like my aunt?
No, Kira, it's 'cause I know my dad. And if he said no, it's a no. Okay, now plan B. Alva. I did some digging and figured out the neighborhood where she lived. I'll go there tomorrow. So here I am now, completely lost. Except, isn't that the woman who helped me at school? I rushed over and thanked her for the other day, but she seemed a little off. After a lot of persuading, she finally told me the cause of her sorrow. A tragic love story.
His family are all politicians, so they can't accept someone mediocre like me.
I'm so sorry, but I'm sure you can find someone better. She shook her head, saying he'd recently moved back to town and was still single. That got her reminiscing about the good old days, but sadly, he's seeing someone else. Wait a sec, is that a photo of you 2? May I see? She showed it to me. My thought exactly. That's my dad! So, You're Alva?
Yes, but how do you know?
Because you're my dad's ex, just who I'm looking for. I shrieked in happiness, but strangely, she cried even harder, then hugged me.
If that's your dad, then LaDonna, I'm not just his ex. I'm your mom.
Hold up, what now? So, they were deeply in love despite my dad's family's disapproval. But when I was born, they got even angrier and kicked her out. Yet, this entire time, I thought my poor mom was no longer on this earth. Our reunion was cut short by Dad's call. I wanted to ask him everything ASAP, but Mom signaled me not to.
Honey, don't tell Robert yet. Of course I look forward to our family's reunion, but I'm not ready to meet him. And perhaps neither is he. It'll be awkward for him and the woman he's seeing.
No worries, Mom. There's nothing between them. The only woman for him is you. Having Mom beside me made my life so much better. She's a successful businesswoman, but still puts work aside to spend time with me. We went on picnics, shopping, watched movies together. And her cooking is the best. I devoured the grilled ribs in an instant. It's 1,000 times better than frozen food. When I'm around her, I can be myself without worrying about the public's eye. I wish I could skip class every day to stay home with Mom like this, but it's not that easy. At school, I excitedly told Kira and Troy all about my fun outings with Mom, but they looked rather uninterested. Whatever. Mom will pick me up later and we'll have a blast. Suddenly, buzzing talks from other tables cut off my thoughts.
My cat eats faster than her.
Indeed, our graceful princess. Guys, don't be fooled. She's in fact a delinquent who skips class all the time.
Having a mare daddy is so lucky. If we did that, we'd be kicked out right away.
Those mean girls always have something bad to say. I headed toward them to settle this once and for all, but my father's words echoed in my mind.
LaDonna, everyone judges me by your behavior.
Ugh, fine.
They're right, LaDonna. You've been absent quite a lot lately.
I just want to be around my mother.
A good mom would never tell her daughter to skip class. Think about it. There must be a reason for your whole family to be against her.
What do you know? They were the bad guys who unreasonably looked down on her.
Then why did your dad keep in touch with my aunt, but cut ties with her?
So, Kira was still annoyed that my dad and her aunt didn't become a thing? How petty. I walked off, but Troy ran after me.
Kira's just worried about you. Also, you're living in the same town as your mom now. You'll have lots of time with her. So don't play truant again, okay? Here, I've marked the important parts we learned during your absence.
Troy has always been gentle to me. He's right. I have tons of time for Mom, but we can't keep sneaking around like this. My parents should reunite soon. I remembered the story of how my mom first met Dad and got an idea.
What's so important that you have to come here in this weather?
I promised to help out a friend. Please pull over here and wait for me. The friend I was helping was none other than Mom. I then waited a bit before telling Dad to bring me an umbrella because it's raining too hard. Now it's your turn. Go get him, Mom. And just like that, the romantic scene from many years ago was reenacted right before my eyes. My mom was soaking wet, dashed through the rain, then bumped into my father. My dad then bent down to help her up, looked right into her eyes, and dropped her on the ground? I was still in shock when Dad charged towards me and dragged me back to the car.
How did you know that woman?
I asked around.
Just stop. Never see her again, got it?
His extreme reaction was proof that Mom really mattered. They'll definitely get back together soon because they had me, their special bond. That night, I called Mom. She must have been really upset.
It's all right, honey. I'm used to it. Your dad's family was... Never mind. Your birthday's coming. LaDonna, what do you want for a present?
I just want you to be with me.
Yes, sweetie. If only we could celebrate as a family.
That's it! I insisted Dad throw me a huge birthday party. I invited all my friends and acquaintances. When the party began, I stepped on stage and thanked everyone for coming. Lastly, the biggest thanks goes to the people who brought me into this world. Dad, Mom, please join me. I believe you all know my father already, but my mother, Alva Garrix. The crowd began talking and pointing. Now Dad has to acknowledge her.
Please, it's a misunderstanding. Miss Garrix here is only an old friend, and it seems she got along very well with my daughter, which is just adorable. Let's toast to our little princess's birthday.
Unbelievable! He's fully committed to disregarding her. As the guests were busy chatting, Dad pulled me into a room. Ugh, he doesn't have the right to be mad here. Old friend? You're straight up lying. Alva is my mother.
No, she's a gold digger. Look, there's no time right now.
When do you ever have time for me? Dad just sighed, apologized, then sat me down to tell me that back when he first started his business, it failed, but he didn't want to ask his family for help. Mom berated him, saying he was a dumb loser who wouldn't take advantage of his family's power. Unable to change his mind, Mom left after I was born.
No, that's not it. I'm sorry, Robert. I shouldn't have shown up here. It's all my fault.
She suddenly passed out. Panicked, Dad and I put her in bed. That night, I checked on Mom constantly, then fell asleep next to her. I was awoken by my phone's notifications, so I quickly went out to check to not wake Mom. Oh my, hundreds of articles about my dad came up. His old photos with Jade and with my mother were all over the news. The press was saying that he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Dad's bombarded with calls from dozens of news outlets.
It's her. Only Alva has these photos.
Dad, look! How could such a frail person do anything? Suddenly, I saw a figure at the door to Mom's room. Dad and I tiptoed over, then grabbed them. Aha! Gotcha! Huh? Kira? Kira claimed that my mom's very suspicious, so she had to keep an eye on her. I swear she's faking it. I heard her on the phone just now. Enough, Kira! You're out of line this time. I don't want such a petty friend. Leave! Kira didn't say another word and just left. So did my dad.
The protest at 4th Street is still going strong? All right, I'm coming.
It's always work, work, work. Do these strangers matter more to him than his wife and kid? The next day, Troy asked me to meet up at the park for some update. So I unloaded everything onto him. I can't believe my dad rejected Mom just to save face like that. He's not making as much money as when he had his business. Why is he so dead set on this job?
I used to think like that about my mom too, but then I realized that she wasn't doing her job for money or fame, but simply contributing to society. I now entirely support her because it's her life's purpose. It might be the same for your dad.
What Troy said lingered in my mind. It does make sense. If Dad's all about glory, there's many other ways which don't require him bending over backwards day in and day out like this. Troy's always been understanding to his mom. And me? I've never been supportive of Dad when he had to juggle between his job and me. When I got home, Mom was nowhere to be seen, except a letter on the table. Mom said she's terminally ill and didn't have much longer. That's why she risked everything to be with me. But now her health worsened. She didn't want me to witness her pitiful condition, so she left. I immediately called her.
It's dangerous in this abandoned construction site. Please don't come. I just need you to know I love you, LaDonna.
I immediately knew where she was when she said that. I rushed over, but at the entrance, a scary-looking crew approached me.
Don't worry, sweetie. They're our friends. Just listen to them.
They wasted no time tying me up, then called Dad. As soon as he arrived, Mom dropped her act. Turned out, she planned to approach me right after knowing he was elected mayor. Her wish to rekindle with us was just to use Dad, but it didn't work on him, so she's pushing things this far.
Sign here and our daughter will be safe. Many people will go bankrupt if that's signed. Don't ever think you could fool me. You couldn't care less about your daughter? Or are you still counting on those useless cops? Ma'am, you underestimate our law enforcers.
It's Troy and Kira, followed by undercover policemen coming from all directions. Turns out, Kira actually heard the calls Alva made to her accomplices. She then told Troy and asked his mom to look into Alva. Coincidentally, the police had always been after Alva because she's been involved in a scheme that gave tenants a ridiculously huge debt. She colluded with the former mayor and wanted to continue the scam with my dad now. Before she's taken away, Alva still cried and begged for my help. I was nothing more than a puppet to you, and now you're talking about maternal love? A scammer like you deserves to be brought to justice. After Alva's arrest, I broke down crying. She's my mother. That's the only truth among all those lies. Dad hugged me and said sorry for everything. It's all my fault. I just foolishly fell into her trap because I wanted someone to take care of us.
I'm sorry, LaDonna. You went through so much because of me and my job.
It's okay, Dad. Now I see how meaningful your work is. I'm proud to be your daughter. And you too. Thank you. I decided to sign up for a cooking class to better support Dad, and this banquet is the fruits of my hard work. But before he could even sit down, an emergency call came. He gave me a sorry look, but I gladly said, "Bye, Dad. I'll save you some." I was a little bummed out, but it's his job after all, and if he can't be changed, why not learn to enjoy it? Moments later, these hungry hippos already came. But hey, this just came to my mind. How about Troy's mom? She's also single and would look great with your dad, right? Nah, I've realized he already has a love of his life, serving the community. He's very happy with his choice, so I'll leave him be, for now.
That's right. Besides, we can't be family. At least, not yet.